Welcome, cruise industry partners, and thank you for joining us today on another installment of the FCCA Leadership Series. And today, we have a very special guest with more than 50 years of experience, not only in the cruise industry, but running the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association. We're going to be with Michele Paige, the CEO of the FCCA. You've been a central figure in the cruise industry for more than 40 years. How did you get your start, and what inspired you really to get into the cruise industry?
Well, Adam, it was longer than 40 years. It was 50 plus years. And no, I did not get my start on the Titanic, as you like to tell people. But it was actually before the cruise industry. It was the transatlantic industry, the Transatlantic Passenger Steamship Conference, right out of high school. I was lucky enough to have mentors like Bob Dickinson, George Soter, Warren Titus, real icons of the cruise industry. And I learned a lot, and it was actually Bob Dickinson that made me go to college. So that parlayed, Transatlantic Passenger Steamship Conference went into International Passenger Steamship Conference, that went into CLIA. I spent 17 years doing all of that. And then I was lucky enough to move to Florida and came into a little sleepy association called the FCCA. And the rest is history. I formed a partnership with Mickey Arison and Richard Fain, who took me under their wings, because back then, if you recall, things were not very good between the cruise industry and the Caribbean. The communication was at an all-time low. Actually, it was not an all-time low. It didn't exist. We forgot to communicate with our partners. So that was really the foundation of how the FCCA began, through communication.
Okay, so give some examples of what was wrong back then when you came in.
Maybe it was to my benefit. When I came into the FCCA, my two predecessors only lasted 6 months each. So the bar was set pretty low for me to achieve. And it was really pretty easy to see that there was, as I said, no communication. So all it really, we had to do was create that base.
Yeah, so, talking about that time in history, and you even educated me here at the FCCA, there was a gentleman, Owen Arthur. And we actually today have a scholarship in his name. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I owe where I am and everything I've been able to achieve on Owen Arthur, because he believed in the cruise industry. He believed in me. When a lot of doors were closed, he opened them, because it was the first place we had the FCCA conference, was in Barbados. When things were going very, very bad with the Caribbean and the cruise industry, he stepped in and he set it right. So it's called leadership. He believed in the cruise industry. He showcased to the rest of the Caribbean that the cruise industry was a good partner, and that by working together, we would achieve greatness.
So going back in your history right now, let's talk about a couple defining moments. There has to be a couple defining moments where you started at the FCCA, you saw the FCCA change, the relationship got better with the Caribbean. What were these defining moments through your career?
The defining moments was when the Caribbean really started to understand that the cruise industry was a good partner. And that, we used to look at each other as that we were working against each other, that the cruise industry was all about themselves and that the destinations were all about themselves. When we really started to enjoy each other as family. As you know, when we come together on the platinum trips, at the conference, we're family. And that's the most important thing, to work, see people enjoying people. And this isn't just for a year or 2 years. And some of these relationships have been 30, 40 years.
What do you think about governments and destinations that just look at the economic impact as just the fees and taxes that they charge?
If you don't understand, this is something that Mickey Arison said, at one of the first conferences the FCCA had. If you don't understand what the economic impact is that the cruise industry brings, you're never going to be able to reap the benefits. If you don't work to be able to get the economic impact, just even today, if you look at some of the destinations, the economic impact from the cruise passenger spending is $70. Some of it is $200. You and I both know that that could be a tremendous amount more. Happy cruise passengers spend money. Okay? It's based on what they experience and what you're offering them. And it's also about the amount of time that they spend off the ship. So the more that you can offer them and things to do, not only will you reap the benefits of the economic impact immediately, but those cruise passengers will come back time and time again as a land-based vacationer.
What do you have to say to that segment of the industry that doesn't believe in the economic impact of the cruise industry?
Well, all you have to do is talk to taxi drivers, hair braiders, shopkeepers, every single taxi driver. They know the economic impact. Every single person that comes in touch with a cruise passenger is earning a livelihood, immediate gratification. I once was in a destination and I went into a restaurant and the owner of the restaurant came over to me and said, you know, I don't get anything from a cruise passenger. He said, but the taxi drivers, when they have a good day, they come in here and they're able to take their wife to eat. I own a supermarket. They're able to go in there and purchase. So the immediate gratification of what the passenger spending is felt by everyday people. So I don't think that the full amount is being calculated because they're spending money purchasing items, they're eating in restaurants, they're taking a taxi, they're getting their hair braided, they're going on tours. They're spending a lot of money in a lot of different ways. It's not being calculated correctly.
Okay, and speaking of the calculation of this, the FCCA has done a BRIA study for many years, and now we've transitioned into an Oxford economics study. Would you like to talk about more where that came from and where it is today?
Where it came from, because it was during the same time that things were not in a great position. So we wanted to make sure that, as you said, it wasn't our study. I know that we needed to be able to have that information, because if you don't know where you're at, you can't improve. You can't be able to have things put into place. If you don't know what passengers like, how are you going to be able to do more of that? If you don't know what they don't like, how can you fix that?
So when the study does come out and we supply it to everyone, how do we use the data? How do the destinations use the data? What would you suggest?
Well, I don't know how the destinations use the data, but I know how we use the data. In every single meeting that we have, that's a good indication of what we need to work on. You know, as you know, how many hours are the people off the ship? That's been our banner for the past decade of working on the product. And it doesn't mean building Taj Mahals. It means working on what is authentic, making the destinations, shine with what they have. The people. The people are the lifeblood of every destination. How do we be able to communicate that? Every single passenger wants to have an authentic experience. They want to learn about the color, culture, and history of the destination.
What are some of your favorite destinations to go to, and also the product that you've seen in these destinations that you think can be replicated, or can other destinations add into their proposition?
Well, I'll never tell you what my favorite destinations are, but good try. But as I said, it's bringing out the people. It's bringing out what the vibrance of the destination, what they have to offer, what the stories. That's what people really want. They want to have that experience that they can't get anyplace else. And once you bring out that exuberance and constantly bring it to life all the time, what does Disney say? Put the pixie dust on it? So
we can't get your favorite destination out of you. I tried. We can't get that out. But let's talk about your favorite FCCA moments. something that is changed your life through this amazing organization that you really built?
Well, I can tell you how privileged I've been to have had Mickey Arison as the chairman of the FCCA for so long. It's been an honor having him. It's made the FCCA what it is, because when he speaks, everybody listens. He has really taught me invaluable amount of how to lead the association. I think one of my most cherished moments is when I sat down with Mickey and Michael Manley. And it was at a time when Michael Manley was speaking against the cruise industry, and having these two icons sit down together and really understand each other and really come to an understanding of how much they needed each other, not as people, but as a Jamaican and the cruise industry. It was really a beautiful thing, you know, a former prime minister. Mm-hmm. So that was a highlight of one of my experiences.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with the opportunities in the future of the cruise industry today?
Well, as you know, Adam, we are working diligently with Mexico to fulfill our MOU. So I think that's going to be something that is going to showcase the cruise industry, and not only Mexico, but we can rope it out to other destinations about hiring and about purchasing from the destination. So I'm very excited about that. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's also going to be very, very fulfilling. So as you know, we just had a call with Michael Bailey, and that's one of the things that he put on the table, that we needed to have a platform to be able to do more. I'm very excited about what we discussed with Jason, which is to be able to have opportunities in the Caribbean for very upscale product. So I think that that's something that you and I are going to be working diligently on, and it's very exciting.
Okay, and so one last question before we have to get going today. Opportunities for the youth. What's your message to the youth in the Caribbean, the youth that might come into the cruise industry, career development for them?
One of the projects that the FCCA has done for decades is having the essay contest and the poster competition. And the reason for that is to have the youth of the Caribbean and Latin America understand that the cruise industry is important to them and that we feel they're important to us. So with that being said, we want the youth to understand that we're an option for them, not only as a part of their community, but also as an opportunity for a job. The cruise industry and the youth of the Caribbean are tied together. And as you know, under our chairman of the operations committee, we have a program that we're going to unveil in June. I don't want to usurp her thunder on that, so I'll leave that unsaid.
But it's focused on the youth.
It's focused on the youth.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and Michele Paige from the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association for joining us. This is another installment of the FCCA's Leadership Series, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thank you.